Okay, so for the last and final call, we're going to be talking all about the goal setting side of our content and then the accountability. So these two are the last components of putting your strategy together, having the goals so you can start measuring if your content is working and you can start making those tweaks and changes and hold yourself to goals like you would with anything. In your business, you'll have goals, and also for your content, you'll have goals. So then you can sort of know what I want to get out of this, what's the purpose behind this, and how can I improve that moving forward. And then, as we've spoken and touched on a little bit, is this sense of accountability. Now, the accountability is going to help you stay consistent and it's going to help you keep pushing forward. So firstly, when it comes to goal setting, like what do the goals actually look like with content? It's very interesting. I've been developing this as I've moved forward in my own business. And I found having yearly goals for my content, to be fair, haven't looked at them. And I was like, this isn't great, because if I'm not looking at my goals, how do I know if I'm moving the needle? So I was like, okay, for 2021, I'm going to do quarterly goals like a normal corporate business would do. And I'm going to have quarterly goals in every aspect of my business. But with my content, it allows me to keep track of what I'm doing so that I'm not just posting for the sake of posting, and I know this vision and this end goal. So what I've done is I've set up Q1 to Q4, and then I've got the overarching goal. So the overarching goal will then break down into quarterly and then monthly. Very interesting. I do this with every part of my life, but my content and my business. So it's very, one of these concepts for me. I'm like, why do I not do this? Why do I not relay the same strategy I use for my day-to-day life into my business? So that's why I was like, okay, I need to get really specific and really clear. Now, one of the things I want to tell you at the back of that is sometimes a goal, and especially what I'm finding, I'm very, very goal orientated to the point that I feel like it gets to the point where you have goal burnout, right? You just set all of these goals and then you're like, okay, very goal focus. Sometimes you just need that sort of flow. And a goal could be as simple as, I just want to show up consistently on my social media. It doesn't have to be, I want to increase my website traffic by X amount. I want to get X amount of followers. And when someone asked me probably a few weeks ago, what are your goals for 2021? And I was like, to have less goals. Because I have so many, right? And then, you have them in your health, and I have them in every aspect of my life and my business included, but in content and all those things. And I was like, I just want to have less goals and less chaos happening. So if I can get really strategic on the big vision goals, and sometimes that's not as easy as it sounds. Like, what's the big overarching goal for your content, for your business? And it's like, I don't really know. So it's just sort of having a think about and knowing what the end purpose is for 2021, 2022, and doing that 5 and 10 year plan and then stripping it back. And I love when I listen to podcasts and stuff, and it's like, okay, you find out your yearly goal, then you find out your monthly goal, then you find out your weekly goal, then you find out your daily goal. And I was like, I don't know. Like, I don't know how to get that specific. So I was like, okay, if I can break it down into quarters and then go, all right. And I love when they say, what's that one thing you have to do today that's going to get you to your goal? I'm like, I've got to do 50 million things. I don't have to do just one thing. I can't just say, okay, if I do that one thing, that's it. No, I have clients. I've got to do a range of different things. But at least if I know what my goals are around my content, I know for my content what I need to do, maybe not even in that day, maybe in that week, like with the batching. Okay, do I just need to make sure that I have my blog, my podcast, and my socials done each week? And that's my goal. And that could be broken down each day and go, okay, well, this day I'm going to record the podcast, this day I'm going to write the blog, this day I'm going to do the social content, or I'm going to do it in one day, whatever that looks like. It doesn't have to be the what do I have to do in this one day to move the needle. It's like, well, what do I have to do in that week or in that month if I'm batching? So having a look at, that's why you need to know what works for you with the content creation. Is it batching? Is it, creating semi-batching, as I said, scheduling, those sorts of things. So then is it a monthly goal? Is it a weekly goal? Is it a daily? And then tracking it off the back of that. So, okay, and when it comes to numeric goals for your content, I want to get X amount of followers, why I have a problem with this is because then we do what it takes to get that number, and then that number might not be aligned. So, okay, I want 1,000 followers by the end of the year, but is it 1,000 followers in general, or is it aligned followers? And then you might find the followers that you actually have aren't that great. So it's sort of thinking about, okay, if I want 1,000 followers by the end of the year, why? Why do I want that amount of followers? What is that going to bring me? Do I think that if I get 1,000 followers, then I'll get more clients? There's probably other things that you could do. So when you put a numeric value to your goals, ask yourself why that number. Sometimes we just throw a number out there, and that's okay for certain things, but it's sort of understanding what that number is going to bring me. So if I increase my website traffic by 20%, I know that that is going to generally or most likely lead to more sales in my business because I've got people on my website. If I have a growth of 100 email subscribers, okay, why do I want 100 email subscribers by a certain date? Because then that means I can, because people sign up to your email, they're way more aligned than if they're just your followers. So just being smart about if you've got numeric goals, what that actually means for your business and why you need that number. Sometimes the number, it's not, okay, I want 1,000. Sometimes you just put a number out there, but why do you need a growth of that, equivalent? Like why that growth? What is that going to lead to in your business? A lot of the times we just want the 1,000 followers because we think, oh, once I get 1,000, it's just, 1,000 seems like a benchmark. But you could have like 400 followers, right? And 50% of them actually buy from you. You could have 1,000 followers and only like 1% of them buy from you. So just that's why understanding your audience is so important, and knowing the people that follow you. Are they aligned? Are they not aligned? If they're not, what do you need to do to change your content, to change your strategy around who you're engaging with on social media, those sorts of things, to then bring in a more aligned audience? If a goal for you is to have a more aligned audience, what is that audience and how are you going to get them? So, okay, to get a more aligned audience, I'm going to, follow more people in that industry or connect with more people, looking at the leaders in your field and connecting with them, going live with them, collaborating with them. What can you do to then tap into their following that is your following? So when you set those goals, it's all about the action that you take to get there. What do you need to do? So if I want to increase my website traffic by 20%, what do I need to do in my content? Okay, I need to direct more people to my website. I need to make it really clear on how people can get to my website. I need to link it as much as I can on my socials, podcast, blog, whatever that looks like, to direct more people. If you want to increase your website traffic, do you need to start a blog in 2021? So when you put a goal in place, it's what is the action off the back of that, which is, of course, is your KPI. What do you need to do to get to that goal? And then breaking down. And that's how I guess you get your daily, the daily things I need to do, the weekly things I need to do, but it might be more project based. So, okay, if I want to increase my website traffic, I know I need a blog. And a blog, you might not work on it every day. You might break it up and go, okay, well, I'm going to set a date that in May, I'm going to launch my blog. So what do I need to do in the lead up to May? Okay, I need to get the blog set up on the back end, maybe batch some content, and then schedule it in that way. I think a lot of the times we set and put a goal in action and in place and then not really think about what we need to do. Do we need to set a 30-day challenge like I did when I first started my podcast? I was like, okay, every day for 30 days, I'm going to do something on that podcast. And then by the end, I'm launching it. So have a think about what you can do to sort of make that happen. I think a lot of the times we have these goals and then of course we leave them behind and then forget about them and go about doing all the little things that we need to run a business, that we forget the purpose of what we wanted to do in the first place. So when we set our content goals, how are we going to review them? What does that look like? Do we do a quarterly review? Do we do a monthly review? And it's all about just checking in with those goals and ensuring that you're on the right track as well. A lot of the times those goals might change. And I think sometimes we're like, oh, well, I need to set that goal. You might set a goal that you want to start a blog by May, but then you might get to Feb and go, you know what, I want to do a podcast instead. That doesn't mean you have to do that blog if you don't feel aligned to it. I think a lot of the times we set these goals and think we have to do them, we have to get to it. But if there's a reason why you might change that goal, then why do you still need to do it? Like what's the purpose around it if it doesn't make sense to you anymore? Our business and our mindset around our business is always going to be developing and changing. Your niche might change. Something might happen mid-year and you completely change your niche. So why do you have to keep those goals? So this is when we start to, I guess, have those honest conversations with ourselves and say, okay, I set that goal. Does that feel more aligned? And that's why we need to check in. And for me, setting those yearly goals, I was like, I'm sure I achieved them, but some of them probably changed. And that's why, you continue to review them and see if they're more aligned, but also not be hard on yourself if you don't finish it or you don't achieve that goal because it doesn't make sense anymore. Of course, if you're removing that goal, you need to have that conversation and ask yourself why, and have that tough, I guess, conversation, and not just go, yep, okay, see ya. Just ask yourself why you're saying goodbye to it as well. It's interesting. And, it's even like when you read a book and you pick up a book and you start reading it and you might not like the book. And then you go, why am I reading this book? Because why are you still wasting your time reading it if it doesn't make sense to you or if you're not enjoying it? Why would you finish? Some people just feel like they have to finish it because it's an achievement, but you're sort of wasting your time if there's another goal over here you could be working on. And I think when I realized this, because I'm I want to get it finished type of person. And if I commit to something, I don't want to quit because I don't want to be a quitter. But there are times where things are just not going to make sense. And there might be something else sitting there waiting for you to work on that could move your business to where you really want it to be. So that's why checking in is so important, and measuring things, right? The measurement template is in the portal for you to download, and making it a habit of measuring stats, looking at the data. And the data is not always going to tell you the full story. You're going to know the full story if you're creating content, you're in your business. Even if you've got someone creating content for you, you see it unfold. You know what works and what doesn't. So you continue to track that and then go, okay, well, is this in line with the goals that I set? Is this content that I'm creating really aligned with my mission and my purpose? And that's why having, calling yourself out sometimes. I remember when I sort of established my values and I was creating content, there would be times where I would go to myself, is this really aligned to my values? And you call yourself out and you go, no, right, you're being super shallow here. You need to dive deeper. And, when we talked about the notion of should I be using some of the content for my course in my social posts, you might write a really shallow post, but you've got lots of gold in your course, but you're like, no, I don't want to share the content from my course. And then you say to yourself, well, I know when I share this information, I feel really good about what I'm creating and I know it's making a difference. So you sort of call yourself out on that. It's the same when you're creating content that might not be aligned to your goals. You need to start calling yourself out and going, okay, is this in alignment with what I want to achieve long term? And as I said, as it changes and develops, that's when your content will change and develop. So having a think about what your goals will look like for next year, quarter 1, quarter 2, quarter 3, quarter 4, and then cementing them in will really set the framework for the content that you create. For example, if you want to, as I said, start a blog or start an email list and get your email subscribers up to 200, what do you need to do in your content to get there? Do you need to create a freebie? Okay, and then if you create a freebie, how do you promote that? Do you then create content on your socials to get people to download it? So it all sort of comes into formation, and at the end, it stems from the content you create on how you achieve those goals, and then their underlying business goals too. So that's why knowing your business goals first and then formulating them down into your marketing and content goals really works, because you've got your big picture business goals. Okay, you want in your business, you want to launch this course. So to launch this course, what do you need to do that? Maybe you need an email list. So to grow that email list, you need to create a freebie. And then you need to nurture that email list, which is creating content. And then to get people to download that freebie, you need to promote it on your socials. So you need to create captions, promote it in your blog. So it all, and this is why I always say that I feel like content is now more of a business strategy rather than a marketing strategy, because everything comes down to how you promote it and how you talk about it online, because we're online businesses. That's the only way we communicate with our audience. We're not going to do billboards. We're not going to do radio ads. We're not going to be on TV. So we're utilizing social media. To utilize social media, we need to create the content. And when people go to our page, our website, whatever that looks like, we need content on there. We need to write stuff so people know what we do. Perfect example of this as well is I listened to this podcast called Marketing School by Neil Patel and Eric Sewell, and they're like marketing gods. And they were talking about the importance of content marketing in ad creation now too. What Olay, the skincare brand, did was they had a product for removing the dark circles under your eyes. They created a Google and a Facebook ad campaign that would go directly to the product. So they had that ad run for ages. And then they said, okay, how about we run the ad, test content marketing, run the ad to a blog post on why, what dark circles around your eyes mean, go into a little bit more detail, educate our audience and get them thinking, oh my gosh, I have dark circles. I need to do something about this. Their conversions went up 100%, which is insane. And they used a blog post. And that's when I started thinking like, wow, when we want to achieve our goals, we need content, right? We need it. And so when you're looking at your business goals and then filtering them down into your content goals, what content do you need to create? And that's how you make your content marketing goals. You might be thinking, okay, well, I want an emailing list, or how do I know what goals I need? Think about your business goals and how content can help you achieve those goals. As I said, with the course you want to create, how do I get people? Do I start a wait list? Do I start a freebie like a funnel builder? So it's thinking about to build and launch this course, how am I going to get people to buy it? And that's when it all comes down to the end. At the starting point is creating content. So for example, you've been creating brand awareness on social media right now. That's a goal too, creating brand awareness, creating content, getting people into your, into your world, knowing what you do. And now it's time to start selling things. So you go, okay, I need to promote. I'm not just going to show up and go, hey, I've got, here's a course, buy it. You've developed that relationship with your brand awareness. So people are waiting for you to launch something. And there's so many ways you can do this in terms of sales funnels and, lead generation. I did a really cool podcast with Taylor Ray on sales funnels. I think it was it's in the 30s or 40s. But it was a really great way to show you how you can launch something, but get people prepared and into that funnel for you. So for example, you might do a masterclass and at the back of that sell it. Then you've got emails because you've got them to sign up for the masterclass. You can promote to them in your email list. You've got your freebie, your guides, your templates, all those things. You've got wait lists, things like that. So you think about, okay, if I'm creating a course or a group program or whatever that looks like, how am I going to get people to know about it instead of just going, yeah, I've launched something. If it's passive, you can so do that. But you can also have funnels that lead to that passive course, Facebook ads, all those things. If you're doing a live course, you need to warm people up to that because you've got a certain date that you're starting that out. So you might do a masterclass a couple of weeks out from its launch or even the week of the launch. But to promote that, you need to create content. You need to have, your socials, and in sort of, that would be using more of your inform pillar, informing people to sign up. But you might do a wait list. I do wait lists a lot now and then I do a wait list leading out to, say, for example, I've got my membership launching. I've got a wait list for that at the moment. I'm not really doing too much about it, but I will have, something like a masterclass, a freebie or something leading into that launch. So, wait lists can be done a period of time out, before you even know about the date you might be launching it. And then you can use your content creation and your email list to nurture that list, send them newsletters so they don't forget about you. So when it's time for you to launch, they're not like, who is this person? So really, to summarize that and how that works with your goals is knowing what next year will look like, knowing what next quarter will look like, what you're launching, what you want to do in the business, and how content can work to get you to that goal. And then you set that goal, and then underneath that, what are the tasks you need to do to create that content to then achieve that overall business goal? I think when you look at it like that, it really helps you to make those tasks that you need to do. And it really shows you how important content and the goals around your content is to, formulating what you need to do for your business. And then of course, everything's trial. As I said, goals will change. You might go, okay, well, I want to do a group program. And then you decide, no, you know what, I'm going to do one-on-one coaching. Your content goals might be sort of similar, but you might need to tweak them. As I said, you might change your niche because you've done your target market research. You might find you want to do a new niche. Your goals might slightly change. So then, and then of course you track and keep yourself accountable to those goals. Have, maybe it's a monthly check-in, maybe it's a quarterly check-in, what works for you. Be realistic about it. For example, I had a podcast episode about websites and Google Analytics. if you can't look at them weekly, don't try and force yourself to look at them weekly. Maybe do it monthly. And then you measure your goals accordingly to those numbers. See what's working, see what you need to tweak and change. For example, you might go, okay, I want to have an increased website, like website traffic by a certain percentage, whatever that looks like. And then you notice you've done that, but no one's converting. So then you go, okay, okay, I've achieved that goal. What's the next step? And that might be to tighten your copy, make the buttons clearer so people actually do convert, or look at what you're offering. And then you can go take a step back and have a look at what might not be working in that process. So you've gotten people to your website. So you know your copy on your content on your socials, blogs, podcasts, whatever that looks like, is working. But then when people get there, something's not right. So that's why you use your measurements, and you can use things like Hotjar. It's like a really cool tool where you plug in your website and it'll literally show you live screenings of people on your website, heat maps, what people are clicking on. And then you can sort of start to think, okay, I've got a lot of people that come to my website, do a flick through and leave. What's happening? And that's when you start to trial, see what works. And this is what I love about it, because it'll just tell you so much. If it's telling you during a launch that you've got 100 people to your website page, but no one's buying, what's happening there? This happened to me with my last content bootcamp. Had lots of views to the page, no conversions. I was like, So what I did is I made like a really short who, what, when, where, why, and how at the top. As soon as I did that, I had people buy. So it was obviously there was a mistranslation in, maybe there was too much in my sales page. So maybe I needed to make it a little bit more simpler. So that sort of told me, okay, I need to change this, because I know people are landing on the page. I know my social campaign is doing fine, but there's something missing there. So that's why we need to measure as well, to see what's happening in that process. When it does come to goals as well around your content and all your business and all those things, and breaking it down monthly, it's just trying to always keep yourself aware of what that goal is. Just because what happens with me sometimes is I'll set a goal and then get to the end of the month and be like, oh yeah, that goal, I probably could have done more for that goal. So, whatever works for you, I used to try and have them posted around, at the moment it's a little bit harder now when I'm moving around, but trying to have yourself aware of what they are. So it's always in the back of your mind. And this is sort of more of that manifestation, visualization type stuff. But knowing what they are and being aware of them, you'll consciously start to do more towards that goal. So that's just something to think about. And also, having a due date on these goals too. It might be end of the year. It might be mid-year. You might want to go, okay, I'm going to set quarterly goals, but then I want things done by that mid-year. And then I'll have things that might start in that mid-year and continue. Like, I guess when you're working in corporate, you have your performance goals. Some things might be done by Q1, and there's some things that you might not even start until Q3. So it's also like thinking about, long term and what things you're going to develop. For example, this year's goals looked a lot different because obviously I'm still working full time. But if I had done those quarterly goals properly, I would have known that once I quit, I could have, changed my goals. I could have had more than just, post consistently, because I knew I'd be able to post consistently. That was a really good goal for me when I was working full time, because that was hard, right? But then once I quit my job, I could have added different things in there and more. And the one thing that I want you to remember as well is, when you are starting out, don't worry about the increase by 20%. If you're just starting out, you've got nothing to measure it by. So just make those more like, I guess, goals in a sense of get this done, launch this, do this, get the email list set up. And then next year, go into, okay, I've got 100 subscribers. I now want 300. But then also with that number, what is that number going to do? What are you going to achieve with that number? What, really being specific on what that number will bring you and why you need that. Of course, there are going to be times you're like, 300, I don't know what that number really means to me, but I know if I have X amount of people, I know my open rates on my emails are, 1%, 2%, 3% probably around a good rate. Obviously, the more subscribers I have, the number of people clicking might be like a good amount of clickables. But also remembering that the more people you have on your list and the more unaligned they are, the more chance you have of going into spam of the people that might be aligned. So that's why with things with email lists, just being really conscious of the open rate, the click-through rate, and then maybe tidying that up when you need to. I had someone ask me a question the other week. Okay, so I've got 50 unsubscribed people. Do I just delete them off my list completely? My answer is yes. The more people you have on your list that open your emails, the better it looks for spam and all those things. So it's just something to remember. I just recently did a campaign with a client where we did like we sent them people that were unengaged with the emails, but were still subscribed. A little reminder to say, we're cleaning up our email list. If you still want to receive emails from us, resubscribe. Whoever didn't, we deleted, because that really helps. Sometimes you might have people that aren't even opening your emails, and what's the point of having them on your list because they're not aligned. So that's just something a little bit off topic, but something to think about down the line. So then once we've got our goals, okay, this accountability, and I've spoken about this in the call around our content calendar. That's one form of accountability. That's something that keeps our content organized. We know it's there. We know we need to post it. But now it's thinking about what other forms of accountability can I set to hold me to my goals and to keep me to my content creation, keep me in alignment to what that looks like. And this really does depend on your tendency. And I don't know if anyone's heard of the 4 Tendencies by Gretchen Rubin. She wrote the book, The Happiness Project, and she talks all about happiness, and she's very, very goal orientated, like sometimes probably a bit too much. But I used to love her. And she had this tendencies quiz, and she had 4 tendencies. And depending on what tendency you fit under would depend on how you keep yourself accountable. So there was rebel, upholder, obliger, and questioner. I'm a questioner. So I meet inner accountability really well, but outer, if I want to do something for someone, I need to ask questions, know what the purpose is behind it before I'll do it. Then you've got obligers who will meet outer really well, do anything for anyone. But when it comes to inner, they struggle. You've got upholders who will do both. They'll meet inner and outer. And you've got rebels who they just do their thing. They, kind of do what suits them when it suits them. So knowing this can really help you with your content creation. Knowing yourself, as I've said, really knowing the type of person you are, what works for you in terms of accountability, content creation, flow, all these sorts of things. But when I knew this, now I know I'm a questioner, I know I meet inner accountability really well, which helps me a lot with my content. That's why I say sometimes to people, like, don't always compare, because you don't know how other people meet expectations and things like that. Meeting inner accountability sometimes can be hard, because if I don't do a post, I can find I'm really hard on myself. Wanting to have a break over Christmas, I'm like, I don't know if I can not post for this amount of time. Like, oh, maybe I'll do a few, which, you just wait. I will. I know I will. Maybe not so much really thought out posts, but it'll probably be really in the moment stuff. But doing this quiz called the 4 Tendencies quiz, if you find out how you interact with accountability and how you keep yourself accountable, this will really help you with your goals and setting and reaching your goals, and then also how you create content. So if most of the population are obligers, if you meet outer accountability really well, but you struggle with inner, then get people to hold you accountable. Maybe have an accountability partner with your goals. I have an accountability partner, and it works really well just to check in and assess goals. But in terms of getting my goals achieved, I'll meet them anyway just because of my tendency. But if you are an obliger, it'll really help you with your goals in your business, content creation, all those things. Because if you've got an accountability partner watching your content, knowing if you post or you don't, then you go, oh my God, I need to write this content because I told such and such I would get it out. That's why going on stories and saying, I'm going live, join me at this time, even if no one joins you and you have set that intention that you've told people. So you go, oh my God, I've told people, I have to do it now. So that's something that works quite well, and knowing how you meet accountability will help you with that. Setting intentions in terms of, creating a podcast, creating a blog. If you tell people you're going to do it, then you've put that out there, you've set that intention. So you're more likely to reach it if you are an obliger, because you've told people, even if no one's going to listen to it when you launch it, which that won't happen. That will never happen. You've told people. So it's got to happen. I had someone message me after hearing one of my reels and listening to my podcast about starting a podcast in 2021. She's like, I did it. I went on stories. I told people I was launching this date. So now I have to do it. I was like, yes, that's amazing. I love that. So she put that on her stories, and now she's like, I have to do it now because I've told people. So that's how she's achieved that goal, because she knew I'm never going to feel like doing it. I'm never going to make myself do it. So if I tell other people I'm going to do it, then I feel obliged to do it for them. So it's just, trying to work that out. And I found knowing that and having clients know what tendency they are really helps them with their content creation, because if they aren't really super passionate about it to begin with, they know that they're doing it for someone else. So it means more to them. They know they're doing it for their audience. They know their audience will benefit from it. So it's easier for them to feel more passionate about it because it aligns with their purpose as well. Of course, there's other ways that you can reach accountability if you are, depending on your tendency, like phone reminders, calendars with, your scheduling, your post scheduled. It's just really, when it comes to this consistency, achieving our goals and holding ourselves accountable, it does come down to knowing how you work best. If you hate, reminders because you're like, no, you know what, I don't want to do that, then don't use them. It's really about learning how that process works. And it does definitely come down to trialing that and seeing how that works for you and your business. And I think for me, mine is like changing. It's crazy because I used to be very masculine, like do. And now I'm trying to tap into this like sense of flow and create. And that's why I'm like, I need a break, because I feel like my creativity is blocked because I'm too much doing and I need to like allow that flow. So it is identifying to a sense of content burnout. And that's the one thing that I want to talk about before we end the session, is identifying when you have done enough and you have had enough. I know this time every year I have a little sense of burnout. Now, I always find, for some reason, I pack a lot into December, even though I already know it's going to be a crazy year. Last year, I was still side hustling. I had Christmas parties. It was really hard to say no to things. Obviously, we didn't have the world of COVID. I'd gotten back from Europe. I was trying to start my business, and it got to the time where I was going away and I was like, I can't work. And then you start to question things and you're like, am I doing the right thing? And even showing up online, like video wise, stories, Instagram stories, it gets harder. So it's identifying when it's starting to feel a little bit hard, because it's never going to be smooth sailing, unfortunately. There are going to be periods of time where you don't feel really inspired. You might be comparing yourself to others in your niche, but it's knowing that will pass, but allowing that to happen and just settling into that. For example, I have a podcast episode coming out today, as I'm recording this call, around content strategy for 2021. And my guest, Ken, who I've spoken about a lot because I've been spending a lot of time with him because I was living with him. He has burnt out a lot, and he's been in business only 5 months. And I swear he burns out every month. And he comes back because he loves what he does. And I think that's what you need to remember, that sometimes you just have to ride that wave and let it happen. When you are on the hamster wheel all the time and trying to be consistent all the time, if you don't take a step back to reflect, then you're going to keep pushing and pushing and pushing to the point where you're creating for the sake of creating and you're not really resonating with your audience as much. So for example, me, I want to have this little bit of Christmas period off because I know I'm feeling a little bit blocked with my creativity. I'm feeling like with a move and settling into the business, so it's about identifying what's the bare minimum you can do, or just have a break. I mean, with this break, I will advise, of course, we need extended periods of breaks at some point, but what can you do to still keep that consistency up? Or just give yourself the self-compassion, letting your audience know you're having a break off socials. That's more than okay. I did a Instagram reels about what content should I create over Christmas. It's like, you do you. Delete that. Like, don't do anything. Maybe do a Merry Christmas post or Happy Holidays, Happy New Year's, whatever. And then just silence, have some time off, create little bits and pieces, if you want. So for example, for me, what I think I might do is no intention of creating content, but if I feel inspired, I will, and I'll come back on the 4th of Jan and I'll be ready to go. We do need these periods of time. When we work in corporate, we have 4 weeks off. As an entrepreneur, obviously that's that comes with time and as our business grows and develops. But do allow yourself some time to stop and reflect. And these are the perfect times for you to maybe have a look at your goals, have a look at your metrics, or not, if you could dedicate time. But what I'm finding is, how can you improve something if you haven't gotten time to look at what you've done? And if you don't take that little break, even if it's for a few days, a week, you're just going to keep doing. And then you'll slowly implement things, but it might not translate how you wanted it to. So that's why this consistency, of course, is so important. And I know from having people on my podcast, especially Erin May Henry, when she started her YouTube channel, she's just like, I just knew if I kept creating, it would happen, and it would happen for me. Perfect example was when I started my blog in 2014. For some reason, I just thought I would be like, yep, done. I've got a podcast. I'll just be famous in a couple of months. This happens for some people. They go viral quite quickly. In reality, we don't know what happened behind the scenes and when they first started creating content. If you just keep going, it will eventually happen. If you have a little break, it's not going to impact what you've done. If you have an extended break, like for me, for example, I did my blog and my podcast. I've stopped them now. If I went back to them, it'd be like starting from scratch again. I know that, and that's okay. But understanding that a small break will be okay, even if you have a month or two, that's still okay. But when you have a longer extended period of time off, the consistency will just, you will have to start again eventually. So it's just sort of identifying when you do need a break and honoring that, because it will get to the point, if you don't, then you will have like 6 months off or a year off. And then you'll have to sort of pick that back up. And it's almost like this what does happen is this working in the business and working on the business concept. And I think, for example, if you have lots of clients, you're like, okay, I don't need clients right now, so I don't need to post on socials, I don't need to do this, I don't need to do that. What happens when that client pool runs dry? Then you almost have to start up again. So it's like keeping that momentum and that balance. If it looks like, okay, I'm booked out at the moment, so I don't want to post too much content and mislead people. I don't want to say, yeah, I'm open, like I'm creating content, everyone's trying to work with me. So that's why obviously starting waitlists are perfect. But you might just go, okay, maybe I'll just cut back on my content a little bit, keep that momentum going. And then when my clients are starting to run a little bit dry, I'll ramp it up a bit. And I think I remember when it would have been this time last year, maybe November or Jan, actually it was Jan. I had some interest on something I was doing. And I think I was like, for side hustling and working full time, I was sort of at capacity, you could say. And I remember my coach saying, still build on some momentum though. Don't just like pull the plug. And I think that's what happens a lot. You get like all these clients, you get really excited. You're like, don't need to do that now. I've got, things are happening, so it's fine. But what you do, need to remember is you have to keep that balance, keep that balance. And so that when, you might have heaps of clients, so you might just like post a little bit less, or, maybe not promote as much. You might just do some more education, keep that going. And then so you can start leveling that back up when you need to. So that's one thing I want you to remember about content burnout, is just be aware, because it will happen. And if you keep pushing, you'll block yourself from those, that creative flow. That's why, taking time away, sometimes even going on a walk, will help me like generate more content ideas, taking some time out. And that's why I'm really excited for this break, because I know when I come back, I'll be like, yes, I've got heaps of ideas, because I'm feeling quite blocked at the moment, because you just keep pushing and you keep pushing yourself, and you sort of sense it and you don't listen. And then, now I'm like, okay, I've identified it before I've pushed it too far. So that's definitely something to think about as well. So that's sort of the goal setting and the accountability. So start looking at your goals for, the next quarter, the next month, the next year, and start aligning them up, and then looking at the accountability so you can stay consistent. And then just being mindful in the back of your head about this content burnout, and don't look at what everyone else does and go, well, they show up all the time, they never have a break, because you don't know what happens in the background. They could have a team, all those things. They might have been in your shoes. So just honoring what happens when it comes up, and having the self-compassion as well. But then identifying when maybe you need to hire to help you. I think that's a big thing as well, and not trying to do all the things. It's great to have knowledge. Knowledge is power. Creating your own content, I always recommend that. So you know how it works. You can see how social media works. You know how the back end works, all those things. And then knowing when it's time to just allowing people in to help you. So that's sort of the end of the bootcamp call and the series of calls. Of course, you have access to go back, watch the replays. I've got some extras in there for you to look at. But I think putting this all together now, you have more of a strategy to then keep moving forward. And then what I always always recommend you do, review it, of course, but then adding your own flair to it. This is just a strategy that I use. Of course, I add little bits and pieces as I go. And I'm sure if I did, this boot camp in 2 years time, 3 years time, when I re-record it eventually, there'll be more things that I've learned, because it's all about just seeing what works for you. I can tell you what works for me, and then you take that and then add your own flair and spin on it. But it's been so fun. It's been amazing. I hope you've gotten so much out of it. And of course, you can come back and listen to this every year if you need to just reboot your strategy, of course, and see what's going to work for you in the future.